Hey everyone, blessings and welcome. Welcome to another video in our Healthy Soul series. In this one, we're going to be talking about the practice of sacred silence. The practice of sacred silence is essentially when we hold a space just to be still. In the stillness, we are actually putting ourselves in a position to receive. And that's basically what it's all about, putting ourselves in a position to receive from God, putting ourselves in a position to hear our heart and what's inside of us. So the practice of sacred silence is really very, very important to our spiritual growth and development, and also to us having a healthy soul. So the practice of sacred silence, in that we are putting ourselves in a position to really, really hear from God. And that's difficult in today's world where there's so much noise around us, so many different distractions and so many different things that are competing for our attention. If we look at our technology, we have these little screens, or our phones, where, so many people are addicted to it, and all of these apps and programs, and even AI today, where all of these things are just trying to take our attention away from things and putting things in our head and ideas in our head and basically programming us to think a certain way. That's essentially what it's doing, right? So that's a major distraction, right? So we're dealing with that distraction. Then we're dealing with distractions of the things that are happening in the world globally, the many issues that are plaguing us and humanity, right? And the things that we have to worry about politically, and, the social issues that are going on just all around the world, and the economic issues that are going on around the world. That's very troublesome to many of us, and we should be concerned. So those are the things that are also distracting us and giving us a hard time and getting to that stillness and to that peace and into that quiet, right? We also live in a world where, it's just difficult for us to close our mouths, right? So especially if you come from maybe a big family or a culture where, there's a lot of people and noise and activity, and it's just, you have to really program yourself and really train yourself to be quiet and to be still, because this is a really, really essential spiritual practice, right? A good practice to strengthen your soul, right? To heal your soul in that quiet. But, it's difficult, and it's a challenge in modern day world to just be quiet and to just be still. But, if we want a healthy soul, if we want to grow spiritually, this is something that needs to be done. And it's critical, especially if you're on a spiritual path, because God's voice can be heard in the quiet, but if our prayer lives is just a monologue and us talking all the time, and it's really one-sided, that divine communication is what I call it, the divine communication. We should be hearing from God too, not just giving our prayer request or even in the worship of God and thanking God for certain things, but we should also be hearing God and his voice and the things that he may have for our lives, right? And also in that quiet and that stillness, hearing our heart and knowing, what's deep inside of us, and getting that inner navigational system going. We can only get that in the quiet, the next steps for our lives and what we need to do. We'll get a lot of that when we are still, right? So we're putting ourselves in a position to get and to learn and to know and to get the next directive and the next steps for our lives. So it's very, very important that we learn to be quiet and learn to hear from God, because that's where we're going to get our direction. And also our prayers are answered in the quiet. God is, will tell us what to do. Our dreams and our visions come to us when we are still and in that quiet, right? So we get inspiration in the quiet and in the stillness. So that's very, very powerful, especially, now in this day and time where, there's a lot of discouragement around us, and, so many things that come to steal our joy. So in order to generate the joy within, and in order to be inspired inspiration comes in the quiet when we practice sacred silence, when we set aside that time just to hear and receive from God, to hear God's voice and to learn and know what's in our heart, and to get that direction from our inner navigational system, right? Also, restoration and healing is in the quiet and in the silence. Our healing is there, when we are still. God will not only tell us what to do, but his power will come and restore us in that time where we're just still. So we're being still, but it's an activity. It's like being sort of like being asleep. When we're physically asleep, when we go to sleep at night. What happens is, the brain cleanses itself, and the body begins to repair itself while we are at rest, right? So when we practice sacred silence, that's essentially what's happening to our soul. It's in that stillness and us being at rest. Although we're conscious, but we're being at rest, in our souls and, in our minds. That healing and that restoration is going to come to us, and that repair, because that's basically what happens when we go to sleep. The body is repairing itself from all of the things that we went through throughout the day. So we're spiritually and on a soul level repairing ourselves when we practice sacred silence, right? And when we do get those words from God, and when we do hear from God, when we practice sacred silence, is also very important for us not to tell everybody the vision and the dreams and the ideas that come to you. And we do get inspired when we practice it on, continual basis. But part of sacred silence is also being quiet about certain things that may come to us. We don't have to tell everybody, our dreams and visions, and we have to be very careful with that, because some people might take that information and try to weaponize it and use it against us, or try to derail the plans that we may have and the plans that God has for our lives. So part of also another essential part of practicing sacred silence is knowing when to be quiet about the information that you're getting, because it's not for everybody to know. Now, it may be okay to share with some people, but sometimes you just have to, that vision and that dream that you may have, you just have to keep it to yourself and learn when to be quiet. Sometimes when we are in sacred silence, we may pick up other things about other people, and God may show us things, our loved ones and our friends, or someone you may know, something that they're going through, or you may feel compelled to pray for them in that time, right? But it's not for you to, it may not be for you to share that information with that person. So it's also learning when to be quiet and literally shut your mouth. It's also part of practicing sacred silence. And finally, I just want to share, in the silence and in the stillness, that's where our peace also comes. You get a measure of peace. Each session and each time you practice sacred silence, the peace of God is going to come to you. Hopefully, if you practice it well. And if you're looking for peace and you want more peace in your life, learn to be silent, learn to be quiet, learn to be still, and practice sacred silence, and set that time aside just to be quiet and just to be still. And hopefully you'll find peace when you do that. So if you're having a difficult time finding peace in your life, definitely practice this. It could be very, very helpful to you. So that's what I want to share with you in this video about the practice of sacred silence. It's very important to our spiritual growth and also to having a healthy soul. I hope this video has been a blessing to you. Take care. God bless. And I will see you in the next one.